America and in the world, and now threatening Venezuela. New threats against Venezuela, against Iran. He spoke to the people of Lebanon. Many of you, he said, have seen how your homes and communities were caught in the crossfire. How cynical can you get? What a capacity to lie, shamefacedly. The bombs in Beirut, with millimetric precision? This is crossfire? He's thinking of a Western, when people would shoot from the hip and somebody would be caught in the crossfire. This is imperialist fire, fascist, assassin, genocidal. The empire and Israel firing on the people of Palestine and Lebanon. That is what happened. And now we hear we're suffering because we see the homes destroyed. The President of the United States came to talk to the peoples of the world. He came to say, I brought some documents with me because this morning I was reading some statements and I see that he talked to the people of Afghanistan, the people of Lebanon, the people of Iran. And he addressed all these peoples directly, and you can wonder, just as the President of the United States addresses those peoples of the world, what would those peoples of the world tell him if they were given the floor? What would they have to say? And I think I have some inkling of what the peoples of the South, the oppressed people, think. They would say, Yankee imperialist, go home. I think that is what those people would say if they were given the microphone and if they could speak with one voice to the American imperialists. And that is why, Madam President, my colleagues, my friends, last year we came here to this same hall as we have been doing for the past 8 years, and we said something that has now been confirmed, fully confirmed. I don't think anybody in this room could defend the system. Let's accept, let's be honest. The UN system born after the Second World War collapsed. It's worthless. Oh yes, it's good to bring us together once a year, see each other, make statements, and prepare all kinds of long documents and listen to good speeches like Evo's yesterday's or President Lula's. Yes, it's good for that. And there are a lot of speeches, and we've heard lots, and the President of Sri Lanka, for instance, and the President of Chile. But we, the Assembly, have been turned into a merely deliberative organ. We have no power to make any impact on the terrible situation in the world. And that is why Venezuela once again proposes here today, 20 September, that we re-establish the United Nations. Last year, Madam, we made 4 modest proposals that we felt to be crucially important. We have to assume these responsibilities, our heads of state, our ambassadors, our representatives, and we have to discuss these. The first is expansion, and Lula talked about this yesterday right here, the Security Council, both as regards permanent and non-permanent categories. New developing countries and LDCs must be given access as new permanent members. That's step 1. Second, effective methods to address and resolve world conflicts. Transparent debates, transparent decision-making. Point 3, the immediate suppression, and that is something everyone's calling for, of the anti-democratic mechanism known as the veto. The veto on decisions of the Security Council Let me give you a recent example. The immoral veto of the United States allowed the Israelis with impunity to destroy Lebanon, right in front of all of us as we stood there watching. A resolution in the Council was prevented. Fourthly, we have to strengthen, as we've always said, the role, the powers of the Secretary General of the United Nations. Yesterday, the Secretary General practically gave us a speech of farewell, and he recognized that over the last 10 years, things have just gotten more complicated. Hunger, poverty, violence, human rights violations have just worsened. That is the tremendous consequence of the collapse of the United Nations system and American hegemonistic pretensions. Madam, Venezuela a few years ago decided to wage this battle within the United Nations by recognizing the United Nations as members of it that we are and lending it our voice, our thinking. Our voice is an independent voice to represent the dignity and the search for peace and the reformulation of the international system, to denounce persecution and aggression of hegemonistic forces in the planet. This is how Venezuela has presented itself. Bolivar's home has sought a non-permanent seat on the Security Council. Let's see. Well, there's been an open attack by the U.S. government, an immoral attack to try and prevent Venezuela from being freely elected to a post in the Security Council. The Imperium is afraid of truth, is afraid of independent voices. It calls us extremists, but they are the extremists. And I would like to thank all the countries that have kindly announced their support for Venezuela, even though the ballot is a secret one and there's no need to announce things. But since the Imperium has attacked openly, this strengthened the convictions of many countries, and their support strengthens us. Mercosur, as a bloc, has expressed its support. Our brothers in Mercosur, Venezuela with Brazil, Argentina, Paraguay, Uruguay, is a full member of Mercosur, and many other Latin American countries, CARICOM, Bolivia, have expressed their support for Venezuela. The Arab League, the full Arab League, has voiced its support, and I am immensely grateful to the Arab world, to our Arab brothers, our Caribbean brothers. The African Union, almost all of Africa, has expressed its support for Venezuela, and countries such as Russia or China, and many others. I thank you all warmly on behalf of Venezuela, on behalf of our people, and on behalf of the truth. Because Venezuela, with a seat on the Security Council, will be expressing not only Venezuela's thoughts, but it will also be the voice of all the peoples of the world, and we will defend dignity and truth. Over and above all of this, Madam President, I think there are reasons to be optimistic. A poet would have said, helplessly optimistic, because over and above the wars and the bombs and the aggressive and the preventive war and the destruction of entire peoples, one can see that a new era is dawning. As Silvia Rodriguez says, the era is giving birth to a heart. There are alternative ways of thinking